The harder you push for the thing you want, the further it drifts from your hands. You felt this. The promotion you gripped too tightly, the relationship you tried to force into shape, the money you chased, until it became the whole point of your days. By the end of this, you'll understand the mechanism behind that drift, and why the people who seem to receive everything are doing almost the opposite of what you've been taught. A century ago, a man named Charles Haanel wrote that the universe runs on law, the same way electricity runs on law. You don't argue with the current, you align with it, and it carries the work. He called this harmony with natural law, and he insisted it was the only reliable road to abundance that lasts. Everything else, he said, is a loan you eventually repay with interest. So what does it actually mean to align with a law you can't see? Start with something you already know in your body. Think about the last time you tried to fall asleep on a night when sleep mattered most. A flight at dawn. A meeting that could change your year. The more you commanded yourself to drift off, the more awake you became. Your effort was the obstacle. Sleep arrives only when you stop chasing it, when you release the grip and let a natural process do what it already knows how to do. Abundance behaves the same way. And that single observation is the crack in everything you thought about ambition. Here's the part that stings. The grip itself is a confession. When you force an outcome, you're broadcasting a belief you'd rather not admit, that it won't come unless you strangle it into being. Force is fear wearing the costume of determination, and the inner world, Haanel argued, responds to what you actually believe, never to what you perform. That's why the chase so often backfires. You wanted to signal hunger, you signaled lack. Picture two people walking into the same negotiation. One needs the deal so badly his voice tightens around every sentence. The other has quietly decided he's fine either way. You already know which one walks out with better terms. The relaxed one wasn't lucky. He was operating from a different inner state, and that state shaped every micro decision the other man was too clenched to make. Same room, same opportunity, the gap was internal. Now, you might be thinking this sounds like an excuse for passivity. Sit back, want nothing, let the universe sort it out. If alignment means surrender, doesn't that just reward the lazy? It's the strongest objection to the whole idea, and Haanel met it head on. Harmony with law was never permission to drift. The farmer who works with natural law still plows, still plants, still pulls weeds at dawn. What he doesn't do is dig up the seed every morning to check whether it's growing. He acts with full effort, then releases the timeline. The work is fierce, the grip is gentle. That distinction is everything. Effort and force feel identical from the inside, but they come from opposite places. Effort flows from a calm certainty that your action matters. Force erupts from a panicked suspicion that it might not be enough. One plants and trusts the soil, the other plants and then claws at the dirt, terrified, and wonders why nothing takes root. So how do you tell which one is running you? Watch your body when you think about your goal. Does your chest open, or does it clamp? There's a deeper reason forcing fails, and it lives in the structure of cause and effect. Haanel taught that the visible world is an effect. Effects are downstream. When you fixate on rearranging effects through sheer pressure, you're rewiring a lamp by smashing the light it casts. The wiring is somewhere else entirely. The cause sits in your inner world, in the quality of your dominant thought. Change the cause, and the effect reorganizes itself without a fight. Consider how this plays out with money. You can hustle, scheme, and grind your way to a sum, white-knuckling every step. Many do. But notice how that kind of wealth tends to behave. It arrives stressed and leaves the same way because the inner state that produced it was scarcity in motion. The number in the account changed. The man holding it didn't. Sustained abundance, the kind that doesn't evaporate, grows from a settled inner relationship with enough. Your whole system drops into a calmer frequency when that relationship takes hold, the way retuning a song to 432 Hz through something like a tune, link in the description, can quiet your chest before you've even registered the shift. That's the harmony Haanel meant. Prosperity is the natural overflow of a mind at peace with itself. And here's where resistance comes in. Because every act of force generates an equal answer. Push against a door, and the door pushes back with exactly your strength. The physical world taught us this long ago. The inner world obeys the same symmetry. When you force an outcome, you create internal opposition that scales precisely with the pressure you apply. Strain harder, resist harder. You become both the driver, flooring the gas, and the foot jammed on the brake. That burning smell? That's you. This is why the most exhausted people are often the ones working against themselves, with the most conviction. They've mistaken friction for progress. The heat feels like momentum, so they push harder, and the resistance answers, and the whole system locks tighter. The way out is the release of the brake. But releasing is the hardest thing, isn't it? Because letting go feels like giving up, and you've been trained your whole life to equate struggle with worth. Let me sharpen that. There's a difference between giving up and giving over. Giving up is abandoning the goal. Giving over is keeping the goal and abandoning your death grip on how and when it arrives. You stay committed to the destination while you stop dictating the route. The committed traveler who's relaxed about traffic still reaches the city. This is the inner discipline almost nobody talks about. It's far harder than hustle. Anyone can grind. Try staying calm while you want something deeply. That's the real work. Holding desire and serenity in the same hand. Wanting fully while the wanting stays loose enough to breathe, it asks you to feel the pull of the goal and refuse to let that pull contract you. Most people can't, which is exactly why most stay stuck in the cycle of force and resistance. Force and resistance, wearing grooves into their own lives. So how do you build that capacity? You train it the way you'd train a muscle, in small reps, daily. Haanel was relentless about the practice of stillness. He treated it as the foundation. He had readers sit physically still, then gradually quiet the mind, because you cannot align with a current while thrashing in the water. The still mind perceives the law. The agitated mind only perceives its own splashing. Start smaller than you think. 3 minutes. Sit, and when the urge to force, plan, and fix rises up, notice it and let it settle. You're learning to recognize the clench so you can release it on command. Do this daily, and something shifts. You start catching the grip in real time. In the negotiation, in the email you're about to fire off in a panic, in the bank balance you check 11 times a day, and in the gap between noticing and reacting, a different choice becomes possible. That gap is where your freedom lives. You've watched this play out in someone you know. The friend who agonized over every move and stayed stuck for years, then loosened their grip after some quiet collapse, and within months the very thing they chased came walking in the door. You probably called it luck. It wasn't timing that changed. Their inner posture changed, and the world rearranged itself around the new signal they were sending. Haanel had a phrase for the mechanism underneath this. He said, thought is the only creative force, and that the substance it works on is impersonal, like soil. Soil doesn't argue with what you plant. It doesn't favor the worthy or punish the anxious. It simply grows whatever seed you press into it. Plant fear, and you harvest more reasons to be afraid. Plant the calm assumption of having, and the harvest matches, which means the forcing was never even necessary. You were screaming instructions at ground that responds to a whisper. The volume was the mistake. The seed was always going to do its quiet work if you'd stop digging it up to inspect the roots. Now think back to that sleepless night. You couldn't force the sleep, but you could create the conditions, then let go. Darkness, stillness, releasing the demand. The same posture works for everything you've been trying to wrestle into existence. Do the work that's genuinely yours to do, with everything you have. Then release the outcome the way you finally release the night, and let sleep take you. The mind at peace with the law stops fighting the only thing strong enough to carry it. There's one more layer, and it reframes the whole pursuit. Haanel believed harmony with natural law was more than a tactic for getting things. It was a return to how reality already operates. When you stop interfering, the abundance was never being withheld from you. Your forcing was the wall. The water was always flowing toward you. You were the one cup in your hand shut, afraid to let it pour in. So the question was never how to push harder against a universe that supposedly resists you. The universe was never the one resisting. The resistance has only ever had one author. You meet it every time you mistake a clenched fist for an open road. The fist can't receive anything. That's its whole problem and its whole solution. Open the hand. Do your work like it matters, because it does. And then loosen your grip on the calendar and the verdict. Watch what flows in through the space your struggle was blocking all along. The current was never your enemy. You were just swimming against it, calling the exhaustion ambition. Turn around, let it carry you. The shore was always in the direction you refused to drift.